use our unit circle and change both of these out first. Cosecant changes to 1 over sine. Cotangent changes to cosine over sine. And then we want to do keep, change, flip to finish it up. Sine over cosine. Alright, so the answer I got is 1 over cosine, which we can change into secant. Alright, so our first answer is secant x. Alright, number 2. I got cosine, 1 over sine, sine over cosine. Boom, 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 boom. Everything canceled out. Answer's a 1. 3. Alright, number 3 says tangent and secant up top. So tangent changes to sine over cosine. Secant changes to 1 over cosine. In the bottom, secant squared x minus 1 changes to tan squared, which is sine squared over cosine squared. Alright. On top, I got sine x over cosine squared. On bottom, we got sine squared over cosine squared. Keep, change, flip. So cosine squared goes here, sine squared goes here. I got 1 over sine left over. And if I look on my formula sheet, 1 over sine is cosecant. For tangent is sine x over cosine x. Cotangent is cosine x over sine x. Keep, change, flip. I get sine x over cosine x, which is sine squared over cosine squared, which is tan squared. Go to 5. Cosine, and I got cosine over sine, plus sine over 1. Alright. Times these two, you get cosine squared over sine. Alright, so can I cross these out? Well, I could if there was a multiply sign there. There's not, so I got to do a common denominator step. Sine's going to be on the bottom. Put a sign here and a sign here. These two cancel. These two times. Alright. Cosine squared plus sine squared equals 1. Look on your sheet. It's right here. It equals 1. So I got 1 over sine, which is cosecant. Change secant on this one into 1 over cosine. Tangent is sine over cosine. Alright, so this is a FOIL method problem. Times these two by 1, I get 1 over cosine. Times these two, and it's just sine over cosine. Alright, remember, FOIL method, every time we have one in the middle, your middle is going to cancel out. These two I got plus sine over cosine. These two I got minus sine squared. I think we've done this problem several times. Alright. So like on all of our FOIL method, if you got a plus sine over cosine, the minus sine over cosine, they cancel out. These two have a minus in between. We've got to do the common denominator step. Since they both already have a common denominator, I can just bring it down and I can merge the top. That is cosine squared. So my answer is just cosine x. Let's go to 7. Secant is 1 over cosine. Cosecant's 1 over sine. Alright, the left side is already simplified down to one word, so we'll leave that. I'll do keep, change, flip over here. Does anything cross out? No. So I end up with sine x over cosine x, which changes into tangent x. Let's go to 8. Alright, when you cross multiply these two, go this way, you get tan squared. Go this way, you get secant x plus 1, secant x minus 1. Alright, let's FOIL that out. Alright. Secant times secant is secant squared. Now we know the middle is going to cancel out, so if you want to skip that step, you can. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Alright, now secant squared minus 1 equals tangent. So I got tan squared on the left, tan squared on the right. Alright, again, when you have a fraction equals a fraction, the best way to do it is cross multiply. 1 plus tan squared is secant squared. Alright, secant squared times 1 is secant squared. When I times these two, tan squared is sine squared over cosine squared times 1 over sine squared. Sines cancel out. So what I'm left with is 1 over cosine, which turns into secant anyway.